G'day guys, and welcome back to another video. You may have seen my previous video on the quote-unquote poor man's double rifle, in which I took a cheap $170 side-by-side shotgun and put some sights on it for the use with SLUGS as a poor man's double rifle. Someone called me out about it. So let's set things straight. Right, so let's crack straight into it. Overwhelmingly, a lot of you really liked that build. I thought it was pretty cool. It suits my niche very well. Some people, however, didn't like it. That video actually reached more Americans than it did Australians, so I'm assuming this bloke is a Yank purely by how he talks as well. But let's jump straight into my little conversation with this dude in the comments, and then we will have a chat about what we're talking about. I noticed you didn't show any shooting or any targets. You said that it is sighted in for the left barrel. Yes, I did say that. And the right barrel hits in a good spot. Yes, I did also say that. If way off to the right is a good spot, maybe so. You need to know what regulating a double really amounts to. Nice job on the sights though. Yes, I do know what regulating is. I said in that video, it was hitting good enough that I didn't want to have to go through all of that regulation and waste my time to not really get much more benefit out of where it was hitting. I replied with, I'll post a shooting video when I get around to it. They are hitting around 3 inches apart at 50 meters. That's why I opted to sight in for the left barrel. Close enough to being regulated, and it didn't warrant all the extra work re-regulating just to close that gap. He replied with, it would also be good to know what slugs you are using. I have a hard time believing that you got a 12 gauge to shoot right-left, he means as in right-left barrels, same point of impact at 50 yards. I didn't say 50 yards, I said 50 meters, which is further than 50 yards. English regulation is 4 inches at 50 yards. I am going to have to call baloney on this video. I'm assuming by this comment that he is American, because no self-respecting Australian would say baloney instead of bullshit. If you want a short-barreled double shotgun that will shoot slugs like a double rifle, get a Baikal 20 gauge coach gun. Baikal guns are shithouse to the power of 10, and I will never be buying a fucking Baikal. Or Baikal, however you fucking want to pronounce it. I replied with, double rifle regulation is more like 1.5 inches at 65 yards. That also changes depending on the cartridge you're regulating for and the range you're regulating for, but neither here nor there. So let's just touch on a couple of things that our mate has brought up. He has a hard time believing that I've hit, two groups, a left barrel group and a right barrel group, roughly 3 inches apart. We'll jump into some shooting in a second. He wants to know what type of slugs we're using, so I will show you that. So here is a hand-loaded slug. Alright, so this is just a normal Cheddite hull. This is an old reused 4-shot. It was fired once, and then I reloaded it. So resized it, put a new primer in the back of it, put some powder in it, put a wad in it, stuck in a 7/8 ounce Lee key drive slug that I molded myself, and then I put a really shitty roll crimp on it. Now, because these had been fired once before, you can see that when the roll crimp happens, because it is rotating, it actually makes the crimp look a little bit shit. But I can assure you that most of the time, it works quite good. So that's the slugs that I'm firing. It works perfectly fine. I've had no dramas with it. It's super cheap to reload. So there you go. Now let's talk about shooting. Obviously, I made some claims about how it was shooting in the first video and I didn't show you. Sorry, I didn't prove myself by showing you the fucking video. I guess everyone's a bloody liar until they show video proof. So I was out of the range shooting something else anyway, and I figured, fuck, while I'm already here, I may as well. So while I was out there, I figured I'd just shoot 2 groups, 3 rounds out of the left barrel, 3 rounds out of the right barrel, just to show how this shotgun actually shoots. Now this is at 50 meters, so yeah, we'll roll along. Alright, so here's my group. Don't know what happened here, that's the first one. So first shot out of the left barrel was low by about, what's that, 8-9 inches. Second shot out of the left barrel, third shot out of the left barrel. So that's more like how I was grouping the other day when I sighted the gun in. So I think that one, because these are hand loads, I've probably loaded that one a little bit shit. I've either fucked the roll crimp, or it might not have the same amount of powder, something like that. Shotgun's pretty finicky with slugs when it comes to hand loading. So let's fire the right barrel now and see where it's hitting. That one's gone right next to that one. And so is that. Alright, so as we've established, left barrel, right barrel. 1, 2, 3. That's pretty accurate, so that's what I was seeing on the left barrel. Now, as I said, I don't know what happened with this round. Could have been my hand load, who knows. But as you can see, that group and that group. Now, I'm doing a 6 o'clock hold on that dot, so I can see this dot above my white bead. So my white bead is probably falling about there. Now, as I said, I did sight in the left barrel to the bead. I did also say that the right barrel is hitting fairly close to it, which is there. I did say that they were printing about 3 inches apart, maybe more like 4 inches. You got me. So as a point of interest, just because I didn't have calipers out there when I shot this, here's my fist, here's a pair of calipers. All right, 3.5 inches fits over my 4 knuckles. So yeah, a bit of a crude measurement, but you know, 3.5 inches. So we have 3.5 inches from left barrel to right barrel. Yes, there's a little bit of an error there in height, but that little error at 50 meters, I'm not really too concerned about. Going back to what I built the shotgun for, it is built for shooting, filleting game, particularly deer and potentially pigs, off dogs. Normally, those shots occur within about 20 meters when the animal breaks cover because the dog has flushed it. If, for instance, it is at 50 meters, which I probably wouldn't take a running shot with a shotgun at 50 meters, but if I was to take a shot at an animal at 50 meters, if the rounds are falling that far apart, 3.5 inches apart, 4 inches apart, let's just say it was even 5 inches apart, on an animal with a 12-inch kill zone, I'm pretty sure I am happy with the accuracy of that. The amount of time and effort it would have taken to re-regulate these barrels would have been way more than I was wanting to throw into a $170 gun. Now, these weren't even soft-soldered barrels. If it's soft-soldered, it would have been really easy. I could have just ran that torch over it, melted that solder a little bit, and then just done the regulation. However, the barrels on this Lasorda are brazed. So you would need to get it stupidly fucking hot to break that brazing and run the risk of wrecking the barrels. So that was not a risk I was willing to take. As I said, if it was soft soldered, I may have gone down the path of just re-regulating it just so I could shoot that little bit better. But with how it's shooting right now, I'm pretty happy with it for the application that I'm using it in. So you can call baloney all you like. There's the evidence. Over to you, Blue Leader. I hope you got something out of that video. If you have any more questions about shooting slugs from a double, please put it in the comments. Anyway, I'll catch you next video and hooroo.